We're not being given a clear picture of why they've done this yet. And the reality is, when they struck a deal with the royal family, they were supposed to not really utilise their royal titles. And I've got some sympathy for them here. Their titles haven't been taken away. They are known as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The children are a prince and a princess. And really, they're being told they can't use their name. Well, actually, I think that they haven't used necessarily their HRHs, which I think was the key in all this, and they're just using their name. So, I mean, the bottom line is you can't really take that away from them. And I think they're chancing their arm a little bit to see how, if anybody would try to move to close them down, but I don't think they will, actually. I think that ultimately, unless you remove the title, how can you stop somebody using their own name? I mean, that's how they're identified. The reality is they have made a lot of money. Whatever way you look at it, in a couple of years that they've been away from the royal family and decided to set up on their own, millions of pounds have been put into companies that are associated with them. They're not short of money anyway. You know, Harry has been given a load of money by his family, his father, even after they left. But the reality is they're looking at rebranding, they're looking at getting new deals, and that they're putting the past behind them. We'll have to see how that goes. I mean, I'm not sure why they're having to rebrand. Is it because they're launching a completely new company and they're writing off their debts in the other company? Nobody's really fully explained it. But it does seem, yes, they want to rebrand, and they do want to identify themselves more as themselves. Meghan and Prince Harry, they've used their coat of arms, they've used their big biogs to say who they are, etc. So really, it's going to be more about them and more of the same, I think. But at the end of the day, maybe the past was what they're trying to line under that. It may not have been, as far as we're concerned, as successful as it could have been, but they've still made a hell of a lot of money in that time. She's probably one of the most famous women in the world. You know, she's a woman of colour. She's actually known by her name, one name, Meghan. If you said the word Meghan, we all know who we're talking about. You know, she's somebody who I think has made a big mark on the world, actually. And although she's got a lot of criticism in the United Kingdom, mainly because of the criticism that's been levelled at the royal family, I think that initially, at least anyway, she got quite a lot of traction in America and elsewhere in the world. So I don't dismiss her so lightly. I think that Meghan, has achieved a certain status, and she now understands this side of the business rather than, whereas I don't think Prince Harry really grasped it. But I think she understood that you have to have this profile to secure these deals, and she has helped secure deals, and she has gone on, and now looks to secure more deals. I think she's just done a deal for her podcast. So although she has been highly criticised in this country, I think around the world it's been less so. And particularly in America, where actually in America, we say it's done and dusted over there for them, it may be in certain areas. They may not have the same glitz and glamour that they once had, but they are a couple that attract publicity. They are a couple that have been given awards for that reason. They are people that make the news quite regularly. And, she has stood up for a lot of important issues, women's rights, and for and diversity, and all of these issues. She's made an impact. So although we are, I think in Britain, we're a little blinkered about Meghan, and in the wider world, she is not as dismissed as she is in this country. If they'd remained in the royal family, I remember covering the wedding, and there were little black girls in tiaras and things. So you'd never see that at a royal wedding. It was all it wasn't diverse at all. And so actually what she achieved was to break through barriers. I think what the Queen was trying to achieve as well was to get her and Harry to work closely in the Commonwealth as well. And I think, for example, the disastrous trip that Kate and William had to Jamaica and the West, that would not have been the same trip if Meghan had been on that trip. there would have been there would never have been that negativity about it. There would have been a lot of positivity about it. And I think a lot of warmth would have been shared. Even if they wanted to get rid of the monarchy ultimately, there wouldn't have been the same trip. There wouldn't have been the same accusations. And the royal family would actually be seen as something, as an institution that is old and traditional, but was embracing diversity, which I think is very important. So, in a way, I think what he was saying was true, because if she stayed in that position, it would have actually given a bigger, stronger message to people in communities, not just in this country, but all around the world, in the Commonwealth too. So, yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity. And the royal family should look at it as a missed opportunity, because clearly it's become very negative since, with accusations of racism and the fact that she wasn't able to get help for her mental health, which is all rather sad. And in that element, mental health element, slightly worrying, because I can't see how that could be the case. But the reality is there wasn't a missed opportunity. Yes, that moment in time when the engagement announcement happened, it really was a moment of the royal family seemed to be coming into the 21st century, becoming more of an institution that is representative, which is representative to all. It's a bit like, really, I suppose, when in a strange way, like when in the 70s, even though they were given an awful lot of abuse, when the first black footballers started to play football, or when you had the first presenters on television, all of these things give young people in communities an opportunity to say, well, actually, that's part of what I can be. So I think that having that in the royal family, which is seen as this pinnacle of Britishness, actually was a really, really big moment. And if you now look back at it, you think, well, that was a shame that they didn't quite know how to work it out. I don't think they've had the best ride. And I think that some of the things they did when they went too personal against the royal family too soon was really a mistake. I mean, I think that they were still feeling very bitter. And I think they didn't allow themselves time to reflect on what they wanted to do. What they did was come out with a whole lot of great TV in terms of the people that are buying it, like Netflix or people like that, because that's what they wanted. It created a huge media storm across the world. But actually, if they'd considered what they wanted to do, stepped back for a little while, and then carried on doing their philanthropy, I can't see why anyone would be criticising them. I love the Invictus Games. It's a great event, gives inspiration to people, former service personnel that were injured or have mental issues. And I think it's a great incentive. It's a brilliant thing that it established. I was there right at the outset of it. And I thought, well done him. I hope it can continue. I hope it continues to get the money. But the media are going to be looking really not necessarily even at him, but at her. And this is a woman that wherever she goes, she creates a stir. She's, as I said, this beautiful actress has been really, I think, in a way, she's been cast as this almost this sort of villain of the piece. And I think that's probably wrong, because in many ways, a lot of things have been down to Harry making big decisions that might well have backfired. The saying things aren't necessarily true. I mean, I think the racist comments against the King and Catherine are ridiculous, because, I mean, given that the King has worked for diversity in communities all his life, I mean, it seems ridiculous to me. And having known him and written a biography about him, I just don't think it bears true. That doesn't mean all the royal family doesn't have elements in there of bias and things like that. But I do think that those two people in particular, it's not the case. I think that she's a star. At the end of the day, whatever Meghan does, she is a star. She's controversial, and she's beautiful, and she's interesting, and she says what she's going to do. All of the things that makes her rather dynamic, and a little bit probably too dynamic for a royal family that tends to be not wanting these sort of superstars. Look at what happened to Diana. I mean, I think that some of the ideas, and let's face it, in any business, in entertainment, ideas are put forward, they're looked at, they're examined, and then they're thrown out. It happens a lot on any film or things like that, or series idea. But a lot of the ideas haven't been very good. I think that's the key. I think otherwise they would have probably got off, been taken further. And also, I think that they're new to it as well. So, for every idea, there'll probably be, every 100 ideas, one might make a series. So that's some of the ideas were a bit ludicrous. Some of them, Harry going to interview all these world leaders without actually checking if he can do so. So I just think that they're just quite new to it. And maybe their advice wasn't very good, the people around them. They look like they've been given a second chance. And that's probably why they've set up this new website. That's probably why they're giving themselves a rebranding, to try and see if they can make a success of producing films and producing podcasts that aren't just about attacking the royal family. I think they're going to decide what they want to be. And ultimately, they've been very clear that they just wanted to be Harry and Meghan. So then they demanded that their children, they said, well, children have got to be a prince and princess. I don't know, I don't actually see the point of that. If they're going to live a life in LA, I think that if they looked at what happened with Princess Anne, her children, Peter and Zara, have been very successful. She chose them not to have titles, HOH. And actually, I think a way being a prince or a princess in LA may well be a hindrance for Archie and Lily, but actually, I don't think it's going to be necessarily in their favour. Sometimes establishing yourself as a person, having a royal title is going to be quite difficult. I think personally they should just call it harryandmeghan.com. Both of them know, everybody else knows who they are. It is a bit of a wind up to the royal family, because they did do a deal saying that they wouldn't cash in on their royal title. But my argument is, my name is Robert Jobson. My website, if it was about me, would probably have Jobson in it. That is their name. They are Harry and Meghan Sussex, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They're allowed to be introduced as that when they appear on the stage. So I'm not one of these people, like you can see a lot of people really getting upset about it. I just think that the royal family left the door open. They didn't close that thing down properly, and they've just walked through the door and taken advantage of it. I am sure that there'll be people in the corridors of power at Buckingham Palace thinking what happens when the money runs out. But there's a lot of money that's been coming in, so it needs quite a lot for it to run out. I mean, remember, Harry inherited many millions of pounds from his mother. So what happens next? I think that they will probably just fade away slowly. But I don't think necessarily that will happen for Meghan. I think Meghan still has a hankering for producing, directing, maybe even acting. And that's what she did. And she did it quite well. She was a success in her career. And people diss her and say, oh, all she did was appear in Suits. Well, it was a hugely successful series. So, I can see her going back to what she did well. I'm not quite sure what Harry did. He was a good army officer and he did his duties quite well for the royal family. But he hasn't really got a career as such. We'll have to wait and see what he does. I mean, I feel, is one that's probably missing the royal life more than others, and the celebrity that goes with that